Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Hurdle the Line. This is your week 10 preview. We are now past the halfway point in the season, and you wait what? Well, regular season. You wait what? 6 months, 7 months for it to come round. It goes this quick. With me to talk about this awful realization that we are so close already to the end of the season is Karl and Sam. How are we, gentlemen?
Yep, all good, mate. All good. Halfway through the season now, and yeah, we're approaching sad time, but we're also approaching crunch time. This is where we see the big teams finally start rising to the top, and the rest, well, falling at the wayside. But no, I think we're all good. And Sam, being the Rams fan, I hope his backside is now unclenched after your overtime win over Seattle last week.
Yeah, that was something else. That whole, I mean, I put him in a lot of the chats. That game was total, just awful. It was so bad. I think it wasn't just the fact that both teams were just not playing particularly well, but the refereeing was unbelievably poor in that game. It
Yeah.
was so bad, and it just annoyed me how they just kept interjecting themselves into situations that didn't need to be there. Like, don't get me wrong, Puka deserved to be ejected is it disqualified? They say it as, or it's just
Yeah.
ejected, isn't it? So he
Mm.
Yeah.
got ejected from the game for punching someone, which, to be fair, he did do it, so he deserved it. I have no query, sort of arguments about that. I don't particularly like the fact that the player who antagonized him didn't get any punishment. I think it's not fair on you know someone personally purposely antagonizes you to get you to do something stupid. They should receive some form of punishment as well, whether that's a fine or something along those lines later on. But yeah, in terms of the game, it was just everything about it was just so bad. Our secondary, I mean, I know we got, was it two or three interceptions. I think we had 7 sacks, um, and yet we somehow could only beat the Seahawks in overtime with those stats. But yeah, our secondary was just so yin yang. 1 minute we were picking up interceptions, taking it 103 yards for a pick six, to giving up massive chunk plays of 30 yards, like back to back to back. It was just a really
Yeah.
weird game. But we won, and that's all that matters. Then we go 4-4. We're 2-1 in our division, and we
Yeah.
are only what I think if we win our next game and Seattle and Arizona lose their game, then we could potentially go, if not top level
Yeah.
with Arizona. I think Arizona, are they 3-0 in our division?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to get it up now, but it's taking a minute.
Standings division. Uh, so they're 5-4 with the 2-0 division, and we're 4-4 with a 2-1. So
Right.
they would stay above us, I think, with that. But I'm not too
Um,
sure.
well, first off, before we properly get going, because there's lots of stuff to get through today. It's been a busy week if you work in if you are in the NFL space. Um, but before we do, there's a couple of things I want to drop by. Did you know, lads, that today is our 40th Hurdle the Line episode, which I just is a very incredible feat.
4-0.
That's gone incredibly quickly. It really has.
It's an incredible feat, and with that in mind, um, I obviously, as most people know, if you listen to this, if you know anything about the network, you know that I generally run everything from behind the scenes. So I see all the numbers that come through every week. And over the last particularly 6 weeks, numbers have been we flatlined for a bit, and we were doing well, which means we were keeping people in, and the people were continuing to listen, but we wasn't growing. The last few weeks have just seen us kind of growing really, really nicely, and that is an incredible thing. And I know people have been telling their friends about it. I know people have been talking about it, and I mean, I can't tell you how grateful. Um, With that being said, people are returning. Again, we're not. It's very rare to get someone listen one week and not return the next or the next episode and whatnot. This is the best thing. Both weekly episodes are seeing the same numbers increase. And that's great. And that means we're harvesting a lovely community of people who like hearing what we say, and we love that. But what we'd love to have even more is you following us on social media as well. Get on our Twitter, AAW_network. Get on our Instagram, AAW Network. Get on our TikTok, because I'm working hard at that one at the moment, AAW Network. On Facebook, AAW Network. Please get us on the socials. Please like our pages, interact with us. And if you also, whether you're on audio, there is a show notes and show description, it's in there. If you're on YouTube, it's right there behind what looks like a nub because of the background removing half my finger. The join all the links. You can follow Sam and his glorious beard. You can follow Karl and his incredible rants. You can follow me just waffling absolute crap at times. But also join our Discord, because we've got a fantastic little community that started to really nicely grow as well. And we'll be doing college football watch parties, we're hosting loads of little things, and there'll be some exclusive updates, some exclusive things going on in that Discord. That's my rant over. That's my little house things over. We really want to turn this into a really nice community of people. And if you listen to this, we consider you as much part of our community as we are. Please join it. Anyway, there has been some news this week. There has been lots of news this week. We'll get the first bit of news that I actually wanted to drop today was that the Raiders, let me get this back up again. The Las Vegas Raiders have added a couple more members of their offensive staff after leaving their uh after losing
Firing all of their
Jets
offense.
after they fired all their offense. Scott Turner is interim offensive coordinator, and he's brought with him, let's see if I can find the name, Joe Philbin is their interim offensive line coach, and added Norv Turner. He has returned back to the fold as a senior advisor.
He's also returned. North Turner's also returned because his grandchildren actually live in Vegas. So he's actually gone to be more closer to his grandchildren, which is fair enough.
You might be remiss if you've missed it, but it was trade deadline this week. Yes, there were lots of trades, but that's something I think, rather than dropping them as news, I want us to talk about the trades in a minute, because that's what's going to, I think, make a chunk of this episode. So we'll get into the trades in a second. Has there any other news that has hit you guys this week for the NFL other than trades and the Raiders?
Not that I'm aware of, but I think a lot of the news, even if it hasn't been, it's been sort of masked by a lot of other things going on in America at this moment in time.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a very, very small gathering in the name of the US election. But
Well, yeah.
we are
I mean,
not. Let's
We're
not
not
go.
going on to politics.
Let's not go down this rabbit hole. Let's not go down the
No.
politics rabbit hole. Come on.
But no, but I do. It is important to mention the fact that a massive vote happened this week, and Oregon are currently standing as number one in the college football playoff polls. It's BYU are getting a first round bye week. That massive vote that happened on Tuesday. Those results were interesting. And I heard something else happened, but I can't remember what it is. Something else happened on Tuesday as well, but yeah. So with that in mind, shall we start talking about some of the trades that have happened this week? Tuesday, 9 p.m. GMT was the trade deadline. That's 4 p.m. Eastern. First off, now this is my first real. I want to talk to the people who are relatively new to the NFL or just getting into trade deadline day. I had a thought about this on Tuesday when I was watching Twitter scroll through, watching all this. Sports has changed, right? And I remember the last few transfer deadline days in football where I'm scrolling looking at what Fabrizio Romano's saying or journalists are saying. But I remember growing up, and I don't know if you guys had the same thing. If you were lucky for it to be a summer transfer window, you would be off school normally. or if it was the January transfer window, you were ill on transfer deadline day and had to stay home. You get up first thing in the morning, get whatever snacks you need, you get whatever you need for that day. You turn on Sky Sports News, and Jim White gets you through the day,
Yeah,
where there are reporters live at almost every training ground in the country talking about what's going on in the building. We
that's
need an
ruined
NFL
it.
one. We need
Yeah.
an NFL one.
Yeah, that it's. I mean, going like I used to. I had a tradition from about the age of about 14 until I left uni, where every transfer deadline day I would on in the evening, I'd order a Domino's pizza, and I'd watch transfer deadline day after getting home from school or uni, and that would just be my evening,
Yeah.
from probably about 3 o'clock until what midnight, 11 o'clock usually. Um, and now it's pointless because all you have to do is check Fabrizio Romano, and he tells you months before it's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
But we do need one for the NFL. We need some like at the, you know, Peter Odem-Wingy traveling down to the Lions because he wants a
Yeah.
trade there and then getting turned away because they can't agree a
Oh,
trade.
Who's the biggest?
what?
Who's the biggest diva at wide receiver nowadays? Is it George Pickens still? Can you imagine him doing
Oh,
a tirade and like pissing off and being
I mean,
see driving?
Stefan Diggs is a big one. He's a big
Yeah,
diva.
that's true. That's true. I'll give you digs. I'll give you digs. But
what?
I think it's hard to do. We do need one for the NFL, but I think it's very, very hard to do that because if they get a, like a transfer deadline day, if it happens on the day, it's not like they can, because in the UK, if you do transfer deadline, say a Chelsea player moves to Arsenal or a Liverpool player moves to Man United player, or, that sort of thing, it's only like a couple of hours, so it'll be perfectly fine. But in America, because it's so wide and so vast, it will take hours. It
Yeah.
would take like 5, 6 hours, and I don't think that will. I think they should do it just to see what happens, but I don't think it would catch on. That's my personal take on it anyway.
Well, I mean, you just stand outside doing the whole. Now, I had like 4 different microphones around my desk at one point. I was gonna do like a little prop. I was gonna get a little prop, um, but it would be, I don't know. Like I said, you get Adam Rank stood outside the Bears facility, or Tom Pelissero stood outside the Bucks facility, just saying, yeah. So what we're hearing is that the Bucks are currently looking at adding a defensive end, and here are a couple of the names. And who wouldn't love, like, I don't know, coming out of the Jags facility, that every year it's that thing with the thing with Harry Redknapp each year, where it was as they stood there outside the gates and Doug Peterson drives through and gives a little,
Do you
oh
know? Do you know what would have actually been really, really good for this trade? Because we could subtly go into the trades. Is one of the NFL reports being outside Mom's Spaghetti at Detroit, or talking about
yeah,
the Zadarius Smith trade? That would be TV. That would be
oh yeah.
TV.
You've got the signs in the background from the 4 kids who did skip a day of school just to go and stand by the facility with a sign in the background saying, like,
There's always
brilliant.
someone that is very derogatory, but
Yep.
I digress.
There's normally phallic toys involved in some of them I've seen. But yeah, anyway, the as far as trades actually go, are there any? I don't know. I always feel like trade deadline day itself, nothing major happens. If any team's got real business to do, it's done prior to the day. Obviously, from the likes of myself, Zadarius Smith to Detroit, but just because it's felt like it's been about 2 weeks we've been talking about it, and it finally got done on deadline day. Um, Deadline day, yeah, trade deadline day. Are there any other trades that specifically stick out for you? I've got a small list of them here, but
For me, the biggest one that I think is a massive win. We will come on to that hilarious trade by the Cowboys in a minute.
That's
Um,
my slot. Leave it alone.
yeah,
but
Carl has been given
for
exclusive
me,
access to talk about that one.
I think the biggest and the best trade is actually Marshawn Lattimore to the Commanders.
Yeah,
And
Yep.
that is a phenomenal. I mean, I know they paid, what was it, a third?
A third, a fourth, and a sixth.
Yeah, and they got back a 7th or something like that, was it? And
They literally
obviously,
gave him peanuts back
yeah,
for a shutdown corner. All I'll say is this with Marshawn Lattimore, okay? He's missed 19 games in his last 3 seasons. He does
true.
have a bit of an injury history on him, but when he is fit and healthy, he
I
is
was going to say
one
the
of the
Pro
best.
Bowler.
He is a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
He's an All Pro. He's one of the best lockdown corners in the game. And remember what I said, Fletch, at the start of the season? I said the Washington Commanders could potentially be a dark horse to reach the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
This trade, and you clip this, and you can clip this. That trade may have catapulted them up to Super Bowl contender. The way, name me another team, bar Detroit and maybe San Fran, that could beat Washington.
Personally, I think the Eagles could. If they can sort out their defense a little bit.
And if Nick Sirianni gets his head out of his ass.
Well,
because that's their biggest indictment. That's their indictment. Yeah. I think their defense is okay. I think the defense is okay. Their offense is fantastic. But I wouldn't trust Nick Sirianni to run my toddler a bath because he'll probably make it too hot. I just generally don't think
he does.
He keeps going for 2. Do you know how many points that extra points? I think they went for 2-point conversion on 4 attempts. 0 for 4.
Yeah,
they could have easily have won that game by about 9-10 points. Instead, Nick Sirianni decides to go above the X's and O's and keep going for 2 all the time. Just pick the PAT. What has Jake Elliott? Has Jake Elliott slept with his wife or something? Because that's the only other reason I can find. That's the only reason I can find why you're not using Jake Elliott, the kicker.
He's going to be the reason that because he just makes outrageous decisions. Like it was against the Jags, wasn't he? Where he tried to do a couple of 4th downs where he didn't need to go for it. He was like, I think one of them was like a 4th and 3, and he went for it. It's like, just punt it away.
Just punt it away.
And he just made he makes daft decisions because he wants to try things. And I get that it's okay when you're winning, but when you put yourself in a position where you may lose the game, which he very well nearly did against the Jags, that's where it becomes a problem. So, the Eagles can beat the Commanders, but the Eagles can also beat themselves, and that's the problem.
That's the straw that breaks the camel's back.
So,
but going back to Lattimore, I think Washington have done really well there. They haven't. I don't think they've given up that much, if I'm honest with you. Because if you look at it, day 3 picks are basically the equivalent of lottery tickets, like lucky dips. Most of them are going to end up being busts anyway, but there's always going to be like 1 or 2 which could have some sort of value to them.
I think it suits the Saints for the position that they're in now, because they are in a position where they need to sort out their cap. They need to sort out the team as a whole. They need to basically go into rebuild mode now, which I do think is a bit of a forced situation down to injuries and such. But they realize I think they've come to the realization, especially getting rid of Dennis Allen, that they needed to do the rebuild. So what they've done is they've given away one of their players who ideally is a star player, but is just, like you say, because he's missed 19 games, he's one of those where he's essentially just taking up room in the medical area, that actually, they can start restocking those picks and start, bringing in other players to replace them and rebuild. I mean, bar you take out the injuries, their team isn't bad. They've got a good, strong team.
Their D-line's actually decent. Their D-line's actually decent, but their secondary is weak. Their secondary is very weak because the Forbes mean keeps going around all the time. So
Adebo's good. Adebo is good, and Demario Davis, he's good.
They got Jeremy Chinton as well, haven't they?
Yeah, but obviously Davis is 32 now, so he's probably close to retiring.
But I think bringing in an older, mature head like Marshall Lattimore, I think is big for Washington. If they've now have the opportunity now to actually take this division away from Philadelphia.
It's essentially Commanders or Philadelphia to take this. I think those 2 games, the Commander game, or both the Commander Eagles games, because they've still got to play each other twice.
Yep.
Those will be what decides
it's at the back end of the season as well.
Yeah.
And can I add just one? There is one thing that does disappoint me is that we're now being robbed of our twice yearly Marshawn Lattimore Mike Evans feud.
You just stole my thunder. Yeah, you just stole my thunder there.
That
Yeah.
that was just brilliant. They hate each other and I'm all
Mhm.
here for it. Now I
You need
I
you need Herb Dean from the UFC to actually be in between them because there's no one else that's going to break them up. If anyone knows who Herb Dean is, he is a referee in the UFC. So
Yeah. So there's nothing I don't think I can particularly add much to this trade that other than what's been said already. I really can't. Both of you have hit the nail on the head fantastically. Now, Karl, I made you a promise before we came on. I
yes,
am nothing if not a man of my word on various occasions, not all of the time. I am a man of my word today. He's got the hat out. I believe there was a trade made by the Cowboys. Karl, would you like to tell us about it?
howdy. Yes, there was a trade made by the Cowboys. Now let me ask this question, gentlemen. Have you got an old when have you got an older relative which you kind of think they might be a little bit over the hill, as in they should be in a nursing home. They should be. He's not quite. He's slurring his words. He's a little bit one dimensional. He is a little bit just not quite there. Up with the fairies
Should
sometimes.
have given up his driving license level.
Should give up your driver's license. Spot
Yeah.
on, actually. Um, Someone has got to take power away from Jerry Jones. Someone has got to.
Yeah.
Because this Cowboys team is crap. They can't run the ball. They can't stop the run. You've given Dak Prescott $60 million a year. You're giving CeeDee Lamb $35 million a year. You do nothing in the offseason to try and help this offense, i.e., like getting Derrick Henry for between 6 and 8 million. You don't think that would have helped. The defense can't stop anything right now. You're sitting here at 3-5. The Washington Commanders are taking that are playing really well. The Eagles are potentially going to win the division as well. The Giants are just derping, so that's not really something to write home about. Surely anyone that has got one brain cell between your two eyeballs, you can see that this Cowboys team is in a really bad place. Their strength of schedule is going to get harder. And now Dak Prescott's out for the minimum of 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. He's on IR. At this point, you've got to look at it and go, you need to start rebuilding for the future. Most franchises would look at this and go, yeah, we're probably not going to make the playoffs. Let's just see. Let's try and get some capital. Let's trade a big piece, like, say, your pass rusher, for example. But no. That would just be absolutely insane to think if you was in Jerry Jones's hands. So Jerry Jones decides to make a phone call to the Carolina Panthers. They've traded a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo, who has had 12 catches for 125 yards in 2 seasons. The average Joe who plays in dynasty leagues, they couldn't get a 4th-round pick for freaking Jonathan Mingo. Yet the Panthers have ended up doing it. This is just absolute insanity. I've got no idea what the Cowboys are trying to accomplish here. You're not gonna get the reproduction back out of CeeDee Lamb. You
mentioned those stats about what he's actually done in 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Do you know what he's actually done this season?
I'll probably say the square root of Jack.
1 reception, 1 yard. That is what his season amounts to.
This is what I mean. It is desperation at best and tone deaf at worst. This is why I say Jerry Jones either needs to sell the team or he actually has to give the power to his son. Because you can't keep doing these business decisions. You just can't. You are hurting your franchise you know, it was great, but you're not in the 90s anymore. It's 2024. It's
The
time to
only
move. It's time to move forward, not stay in your old stubborn, egotistical ways. This
the
trade
only
makes no sense whatsoever.
the only thing that I could say to defend this trade is the fact that he will not be on a big contract. He is only a second year wide receiver. He won't be on a big contract, and maybe they think that they can get something out of him.
Well, Frank. Well, I wouldn't say that's a defense. That's more stating the bleeding obvious. But you know,
But that's their logic behind that pick. If you're going to go for someone who, I mean, I still don't get the fourth round pick because at the end of the day, we've just seen what Davante Adams go for a fifth,
yeah.
and um,
Mike Williams has gone
Mike
to
Williams has gone
Steelers
for it.
for fourth, I believe.
Yeah.
And Mike Williams is a much better. Mike Williams is a much better player than Jonathan Mingo.
But
Much
he'll be on
better.
a lot. He'll be on a lot higher wages than Jonathan Mingo.
Oh yeah.
That's true.
Well,
I think this is where they're at because if you think like you just said, they've just paid out God knows how much for CD Lamb. They've paid out God knows what for Dak. They're probably at a point where haven't they recently just paid Micah Parsons as well a significant amount of money. So you've got three players on extremely high contracts. You've got a lot of players who are aging, who are on relatively sizable contracts. They're probably in a really bad position. I've not checked,
Do you
but they're
know what
probably in
they're?
a
Do you know?
they
bad
aren't.
position.
Do you
They aren't
know?
in a. They
They're
aren't great.
so in 2025 on their cap, 46% of their cap is on Prescott and on CD Lamb.
So there you go.
They've got
So,
to try and get 54% of their cap on the rest on 51 of their players.
yeah.
They've
that's
really
what you're looking
buggered
at.
up the financial side of things on this one. It's not going to make a blind bit of difference. Mingo
No.
did nothing at Carolina. What the hell is he going to do
Well,
in Dallas?
well, let me throw this to you.
Might as well get the dog Bingo in, let alone Jonathan Mingo.
I think people do need to remember as well, though, and I'm not saying you're not, but and one thing I hear is also, you know, when we're laughing at things like again Davante Adams going to the Jets for X amount, or one player getting traded for X amount. This is a lot more than just simply bare pure talent. This isn't football where you pay a fee based on the player. You've got to take on their contract now. You've got to take on their this and their that and this and that. The Cowboys were very high on him last year. I'm almost certain that they've even got okay, maybe they will come out and say it anyway, but I'm almost certain they said at the time they were very high on Jonathan Mingo in the draft and
Yeah.
wanted him out of the draft last year.
Jerry Jones said on his radio show that they was looking at Mingo 2 years ago in the draft. That's what they were looking at.
You've got a second round player, by the way, because he went early in the second, didn't he, last year because he was out of Ole Miss.
Yep.
You've got an early second round player in the second year of the contract for a fourth round pick. Now, granted, he has more fumbles lost than touchdowns. I get it in his career in the NFL, but I think that's one thing. And again, you add on the fact, like I say, not only is he in his second year in terms of the tread left on his tires, but also that's a second round rookie contract that he's on. So yes, you are not taking a lot on in terms of a contract. There are ways in which this does make sense to me, just in terms of the fact that he's young, is a second round pick. You're getting a second round pick a year out of the draft, and they are on such a low contract, which you're desperate for right now. Whereas with Davante Adams, you got a big contract to deal with.
I didn't expect them to go big in terms of a big wide receiver, but I think it's the problem with it is yes, fair enough they were high on Mingo. Yes, they were looking at him 2 years ago. But he's had now a year and a bit I suppose this coming into his so he's had a year and a bit in the league and he's not performed. And we see this so many times with the second year pick where they just don't perform. Granted, he was in the Panthers team who were god awful. So I suppose you could use that as a defense and that. But I just think that he's not shown so far that he is worth that fourth round pick is what I'm
No,
suppose I'm getting at. But like we say, it's a lot different than the way that we work in football in England in terms of how much players cost based upon their performances. A lot of this is based upon what is their value to the team, what is their value in terms of the contract and everything like that plays
exactly.
upon. So
If the,
I can
the
maybe understand it, but I would be looking at, you know, a fifth or like a fifth and a seventh or something along those lines. I wouldn't be looking at a fourth, but if the Cowboys feel that giving up a fourth will get them a player that could potentially turn their season around, then fair enough. If that's what they want to do. If they feel that that's value well spent, then fair enough. For me, I don't see it.
the only thing
That's fair.
the only thing I'll counteract on this is the fact if Prescott wasn't injured, I think you adding another body in the receiver room might actually do help. But you've got Cooper Rush as your quarterback now for at least the next 4 weeks. These are your next 4 games incoming. Okay, so you got the Eagles this week. Then you got a Monday night fixture at home to the Texans. Then you're on the road to the Commanders. And then for Thanksgiving, much to our disgust, they're at home to the New York Giants. There's a good chance they could go 1-3. At that point, your season then is your postseason efforts are done.
They do have the eighth hardest schedule left.
Yeah.
Based upon opponent win percentage. So
and after that, then they've still got to play Bengals. They've still got to play Buccaneers. And then they got the Eagles and the Commanders again. And I've removed the Panthers out of there because it's the Panthers. But with this Cowboys team, who bloody knows?
Yeah,
I think it was very left field. I think that was it caught a lot of people off guard.
yeah,
And that's why I think it's, like I say, it could be one of those that plays out well, and they actually have got. He could live up to his second round pick value, in which you would say, well, actually, they've paid a fourth round for a second round pick. If that makes sense. So there could be good value in it, but the only problem is what we've seen of him so far is he's not worth that fourth round pick.
no. And I would generally agree. And I wasn't necessarily saying that I would give a fourth for Jonathan Mingo. I would just have, like I was just saying, there is a bit more to consider in terms of trade value and what, because of the way that business assets are traded rather than bought. It just, I think, and you remain under your contract and all that sort of stuff. Where again, if you transfer in football, well, you buy them out of the contract and they start a new contract then. So, like I said, there's a few different bits that go on there. There's a couple more that I got. A really small one was Khalil Herbert being traded to the Bengals, I believe it was, for a 7th round pick.
Zach Moss's neck injury is a lot more severe than what we actually realised. So
yeah,
he's on IR now, isn't he?
Smart move by Cincy. Smart move.
Yeah, and for next to nothing. Again, you say that some of them are lottery picks. They're little dip in, see how they go. But it adds a bit of depth, and you're giving up. Well, it just means that you Bengals fans don't need to stay up as late on the Saturday night in the draft. So you're okay. You've lost. You've. Congratulations, Bengal fans, on gaining half an hour more sleep on that night. Giants taking calls about Azeez Ojulari. That one was interesting me because Azeez Ojulari was a name that was coming up for me a lot. Again, looking at the Lions and looking at a defensive end. Azeez Ojulari was a name that's popping up a lot. Now, I didn't think that the Giants would be taking as many calls on Azeez Ojulari as was being reported. Were you expecting to see were you expecting to see maybe more edges go on Saturday? Because I felt like there were virtually none that went on Tuesday, apart from, well, the main one.
The main one. There wasn't many people. There wasn't many teams I didn't think needed it. I think the only team, my Patriots need edge rush help, but we ain't got any sort of capital to actually get the trade for them for. I don't know what they were after. I think it was something they were after a low 4th or a high 5th, I think is what they were after. The Giants were. I'm sure there will be a playoff team that can actually just acquire him for that sort of. But I don't think it was out there. But Giants may have taken phone calls, but it'd been interesting to know how them phone calls went and how low the teams actually wanted to get Ojulari for. And since the Giants stood pat, they didn't get what they wanted.
Um, well, a team that we all know was looking for an edge rusher that wasn't the Lions was the Falcons. I was surprised that the Falcons didn't come up with one, but I do believe that there were some of the edge rushers I believe that were going were being looked at for a fifth rounder. And the Falcons don't have a fifth round pick
Nope.
this year because they lost it was it because it was due to the tampering, wasn't it, with Kirk Cousins that they
it was
lost
due
it?
to the tampering. They lost it, and obviously they traded the third round to us so they could acquire Matt Judon.
Yeah.
Here's a stat, but even though they acquired Matt Judon, the Falcons are dead last in sacks. Dead last.
Well, that's why they wanted edge help. That's why the Falcons were quite high on edge help. And every conversation that I heard about any defensive end, the words Atlanta Falcons got brought up at every given opportunity as well. Whether you were talking about Max Crosby or Myles Garrett when their names were getting brought up, or whether it was Ezel Ojulari, whether it was Darius Smith, whether it was what's his name from the Panthers, who everyone was who they were looking to potentially ship.
It was originally Brian Burns, wasn't it?
That's it, potentially Brad, and then Jeffrey Simmons from
Tennessee.
Justin Simmons, sorry, not
Justin
Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Simmons was a hip hop producer. Worked for hip hop. The the Falcons name was constantly popping up. Every single one of them, the name Falcons and Detroit Lions were there together. So, I would like to think that the reason they didn't get someone was more than likely down to the fifth round pick missing. But that's what it is. And then, but speaking about defensive ends, and I'm going to bring up ours now because, well, not because I just want to talk about the Lions, but because this is one of the bigger picks of the day. Nothing major happened, but Browns traded Zadarius Smith to the Lions. That was a massive one. That was very, very helpful. But I don't know about you guys because I know this was making national attention quite a lot. This was making wider NFL attention quite a lot. As soon as it happened on Tuesday, I was a bit like, oh, thank God for that. It's over.
Yeah, I think the Zadarius Smith to Detroit was. I think it was probably the most logical trade.
Yeah.
That they could have gone for, because otherwise you would have to give up. I think it was Cleveland were after something like 3 firsts for Myles Garrett. The Raiders are offering something sort of similar. I think it was like 2 firsts. I think for Max Crosby, and obviously Reddick, Hassan Reddick has obviously now got his contract signed for the Jets, and so that was never going to happen. So Zadarius Smith was going to be the logical, but the obvious one to be traded to Detroit, and it does add some more pass rush help. The fact that Detroit are still putting 40 points on people, and they're not breaking a sweat, I think it's a testament to how well coached and how well managed Detroit has become over the years. So Zadarius Smith adds a brilliant piece of that puzzle. And if this is the piece that could get them to the Super Bowl, then Lions fans are crossing their fingers that Aiden Hutchinson may return for the Super Bowl. If he does, if the Lions make the Super Bowl and he does return, you got 2 rushes on both sides that can get to the QB, and it doesn't matter which tackle is in front of them; they can get to the quarterback. You end up with a double-edged sword on both sides, and I think that's what Detroit need. We know they can do this on offense. On the defensive side of the ball, they need to keep hold of that pass rush, and they have improved the secondary a little bit as well. But this was what they needed. They needed a replacement up until the Super Bowl.
Right. So I'm going to ask you, and this is more a personal favor rather than legitimate, like respectable journalists type thing, because that's what we are. We are respectable journalists, right? Sam, take that smirk off your face. Please don't talk about Aiden Hutchinson being back for the Super Bowl. It's hope that kills you, and I'm trying to eliminate hope. Would it be nice? Yes, but I don't like Dan Campbell saying it. I don't like anyone. Just shut. If it happens, let it happen. But it probably it won't. No, I agree. It won't happen, and I don't. I just don't want people to dangle that carrot in front of us. I don't like the concept of dangling that carrot in front of everyone. I said this on a Discord call the other day in in a channel that I'm in with a few NFL fans. Fuck off, Karl. Yeah, I don't like that concept of holding it, and it's a bit like I get with elite level athletes having a goal. They're very goal orientated. They need something to hit, and having the goal of if the goal is either Super Bowl or beginning of next season, that's a long time for an injury like that. So give him that goal that he's got to try and work towards, but make it a personal goal for him. Don't make it our goal because I can't do anything about it. I've just got to wait and see if he makes it. As I've got nothing to do in that. And if he doesn't, which he probably won't, it's me that ends up sad. Well, not me well, yeah, me personally. And I'm not saying please don't because me personally, but it's everyone else that ends up sad. Um, but yeah, absolutely. Our defensive backs has been a much better, and since the bye week, Terry and Arnold's improved. Carlton Davis is really impressing me, and Meek Robertson's impressing me. Brian Branch has been fantastic. Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch are looking like one of the best safety duos in the league right now, and I don't care who says different. End of story. The But yeah, you're absolutely right. Continuing to get that pass rush has been non-existent for a couple of weeks, and the offense has definitely had massive thing to play in getting us through that. Speaking of defensive backs, though, because I don't want to hold on this for too long. And speaking of you, Sam, the Los Angeles Rams traded Tre'Davious White to the Ravens. Do you want to talk about that one for us?
What about how bad it was, or the actual trade itself was terrible. I'm not too fussed about us getting rid of him because he was hack for us. He's at the back end of his career. He's only on a 1 year contract. So I'm not too fussed about him going because we did healthy scratch him for 2 weeks and gave him the opportunity to go and find a trade elsewhere. In terms of what we gave up, it's just weird. Like they gave us a 2027 seventh round. No, we gave them a 2027 seventh round and Tre'Davious White for a 2026 seventh round, which
Right.
makes zero sense as a trade. It just is. You may as well have just gone have Tre'Davious White for nothing. So I don't get it. I don't get the trade in the actual trade itself. But am I bothered about not having Tre'Davious White? Well, he wasn't really doing much for us anyway, and the Ravens needed one. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
I don't think it's an issue for the Rams. I personally don't think so. I think you're still building your defensive front. I think you've got a very, very young core of as a front seven, which
Our D line is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
it's causing us problems. And I am actually shitting it next week when we have to play you lot. But no, I think the Rams. I don't think this was a problem. That was a problem. Me. And remember as well, going into the draft next year, there are a lot of high quality corners. There
Mhm.
are a lot of high quality corners. So I don't think. I think Sean McVay's obviously looked at that and gone. Tre'Davious White, he's getting a little bit old now. We could probably do with someone getting sort of younger, a new development at corner. So yeah, let's trade him. Let's trade him.
He
Let's
wasn't.
get some capital. Let's see what.
Yeah, he wasn't really making. He was making no more of an impact than the rookies we had on the roster anyway. If he was making big strides and was actually being our leading corner, fair enough. But the likes of Kobe Durant and that were doing, and Darius Williams were doing much more to warrant starting over him. So, in terms of as a player, I'm not too fussed he's gone, but we do really need to sort out secondary because it is becoming a major problem, especially when we're giving up massive chunk plays,
Yeah.
which I've already obviously mentioned.
Yeah. Any other trades take you so far? Any other specific trades stand out to you?
Mike
Good.
Mike Williams is a good trade. I think
Mike Williams to the Steelers, yeah.
yeah, that was a good trade. I think from both sides, obviously the Jets getting a good pick. Steelers needing a wide receiver because their wide receivers are back. So yeah, it's a good trade all around. It's not like a blow yourself out of the water trade. It's just it works. And then the only other one that I thought was interesting was Baron Browning to the Cardinals. Now, when was it last year or the year before when Browning was on one, just getting sacks and fumbles and everything, and then he just got injured, and then it sort of delayed his. I think it was the year when the Broncos were playing the Jags at Wembley. Was that? It wasn't last year. It was the year before, wasn't it?
It was the year before, yeah.
Yeah, he was going into that game. He didn't play that game. I think he got either a concussion or he got something because I was really excited to watch him play. But he was basically just on one at the start of the season, getting sacks, getting strips, getting edged everything. He was just having an absolute field day. And then he got injured and he never came back the same way. The Cardinals really need to sort out that front. It's just not good. So I think adding him, getting to be able to get pressures onto the quarterbacks will really help. So yeah, I like it as a pick. I don't like the fact that we're going to have to play him, but I like it as a pick.
I think
So
for me, I think for me, Mike Williams was quite a sound trade that the Steelers made. The one thing that Mike Tomlin does very, very well is that he keeps things very, very simple, and he knows what type of receiver Mike Williams is. He's a big, tall. He's an X receiver. He could climb the ladder and get it and clutch it out where the corner can't get to it to. This is the yin to George Pickens' yang. This is going to work really, really well, and it's also because right now they've only got one good real receiver in George Pickens. Adding Mike Williams to the fold now, as well as Pat Freiermuth, it makes that offense now more troublesome to work around. And not forgetting as well, they have a wide receiver 3, which no one really has been talking about so far. Calvin Austin has actually been playing decently for Pittsburgh. So I think this trade I think is really, really good. The Steelers obviously think themselves they are playoff contenders, and the way it looks right now they are. They are approaching though their dreaded back end of the season, which we know when we were previewing it. We didn't think that they would last.
Third hardest schedule left.
Third hardest schedule. So I think they needed more firepower. I think they can rely on their defense. I think they're just worried that they might not be able to put as many points on offense as what they'd like to. So I think adding Mike Williams might actually help, just as long as he doesn't get injured. Knock on wood.
Yeah. 49ers brought in Khalil Davis from the Texans. A couple other questions though that I'll ask you. Number one, are you surprised at any individuals who did not get traded? Was there anyone you were expecting, could be in-house, could be out of house around the league, that you expected to get traded that weren't?
KJ Osborne and Tyquan Thornton. For my team, was expecting a 6th of KJ Osborne and 7th from Thornton. No one bit. I'm not surprised. So, yeah, that's the only one I can really think of. I still think Dallas needed to. How are you going to put if they end up signing Micah Parsons did a huge contract in the offseason? They're paying 3 top stars. It's probably going to be near enough 65% of their cap on 3 players. That's just completely not sustainable. I would have thought Dallas would have tried maybe have got some capital back in trading Micah Parsons to a contender, because I don't think, but
it wouldn't surprise me. I know they've just paid him. It wouldn't surprise me if they try and ship Dak out of all those 3. Sign Michael Parsons to a decent contract, ship Dak, bring in someone else.
Have you seen their cap hits?
Oh yeah, no, it's not. They shouldn't have paid him in the first place. That's the problem. But they need to do something.
Yeah,
it's either that or try and magically restructure both of Lamb and Dak's contracts somehow.
Were you at all surprised with Bryce Young? Because I know that the Panthers were taking calls for him.
Nah, he's staying put.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm surprised. If I'm surprised we didn't. I know we're more for future thinking because I know what McVay's like, and it felt like the sort of thing that McVay would maybe try and pull off, like bringing in a Bryce Young, turning him around, just something really weird like that happening. As sort of a very much future planning. But
I've got something to say on that, but you're not gonna like it. I don't think McVay can develop a QB.
well, he's
So I don't think he wants to take on I don't think he'd want to take on a development project because Bryce Young is one hell of a development project.
it would be, but I think it's the problem is that it would have been a lot different had we have kept our QB coach from last year, who's now obviously gone to the Falcons. But if you're making reference to the fact of Goff, Goff is not that good a quarterback to,
Excuse me, MVP.
Best O line in the league. That's all you need to know about
that. I prefer not to speak.
That's the saving grace. He has the best O line in the league. Put him in a bad O line, watch him fall apart.
His O line, that O line has not been best in the league for the past 3 weeks, and he's been as good as ever. Moving on. And my other question to you now, guys, is: are there any teams that you are looking at now and thinking, why didn't you? Or looking at thinking you should have. So I'm going to throw out the Falcons and say, I know we said about the 5th round pick, but defensive end. Need a defensive end. Need edge help. Chapman was crying out for it throughout the draft, and they weren't listening to him. I don't know why. Falcons fans since have been crying out for more more help on the defensive edge position. They haven't done it. Again, any others in a similar position where you think you just kind of spent your whole time now thinking, well, why did you not?
Chicago with the O-line.
Yeah. The only problem is I don't think there were many O-liners available.
No, that's true. But
So
they
that's
could have
the
at
thing
least
with
made
that.
calls and actually made some inquiries about it. At least they say, well, we tried to get an offensive lineman instead of saying, no, we didn't because there's nothing out there. Just up and asked.
They have got the number one hardest schedule coming up for the rest of this season.
After this week, obviously.
I think, well, that includes this week. So that shows you how bad it is, including this week.
Okay, whatever.
But obviously, I think that's just based upon the whole schedule that's left, and obviously you just happen to be in there. But yeah, they have the number one hardest strength of schedule left. I know obviously we've talked about the fact that the Raiders have sacked their head coach. Dennis Allen has lost his job for the Saints. Is Eberflus the next to go? That's the question I have. Is he potentially looking at he's the next one on the chopping block?
Him or Doug? Between him and Doug. The saving grace, I think, as well, on his for Eberflus is that he has a rookie QB that's now starting to perform.
True.
Whereas Doug doesn't. And Doug, we've all said that. I think we've all said this in some way or another. They have enough talent in that room to not be in that position that they are, to be that bad, the Jags.
Yeah.
The talent in that room, it might not be the best NFL talent in the league, but that room is a lot more. Both sides of the ball are a lot more talented than their record suggests, and by the way they've been playing suggests. And that, for me, would say Doug Peterson should be the next on the chopping block.
They've also got the 23rd, well, essentially the ninth easiest schedule left. So if they don't improve, then yeah, I suppose he could be one of the next ones. I just know that Eberflus is the next one that's been banded around because of the fact that they haven't performed as they should. But I think people need to remember,
if
like I said, they have got a rookie quarterback.
If Eberflus of the Chicago Bears lose to the Patriots this week, he gets fired. You can't lose to a 2-7. I'm sorry, you can't lose to a 2-7 team and not still hang on to your job.
Not with the way the Patriots are playing either.
I don't fucking rub it in.
No, but like in fact, no, I will throw this out there though, that I was impressed with Drake May at the weekend until he did that really, really, really rookie throw in overtime. Yeah. But that's rookie stuff. Like rookies will do that throughout every year. Rookies do that. I was very impressed with Drake May on that final drive and the touchdown pass, etc.
Do you want to know what was wrong with that play? So there was two parts of it. First of all, I don't think Kayshon Boutte done enough to actually go up to get it. And thirdly, if you watch both all the receivers running their routes carefully, Kendrick Bourne slipped. And then as soon as he slipped, the safety then moved upwards and it became double covered on Kayshon Boutte.
Yeah.
If he doesn't slip, there's a good chance Boutte's one-on-one on the corner.
Yeah,
just saying.
To be fair, I'll back that. I was really happy with. I was really impressed with Drake May, bearing in mind that he didn't come into this draft being seen as a dual threat, and he showed he can do it on the run, on the floor as well as in the air. Like we say, I mean, rookies are always going to make similar mistakes of, throwing it where they shouldn't, or maybe not reading the situations the way they should do. But he's making the Patriots at least mildly competitive.
He's making them watchable. He's making it watchable.
Which is all that you want from a rookie quarterback in a really bad team.
Here's the thing, though: 300. The Patriots have 316 yards on total on offense. 301 of that was just on Drake May alone. 95% of our offense was running through the quarterback. That is way too much for a rookie to handle.
Yeah.
But he's showing that he can do it. He's showing the reason why he was as high a pick as he was.
Yes, he's got landfill in front of him. There's shit everywhere. It's just him.
Yeah. We all remember I said quite early on how high I was on Drake May going into the draft. He was my number 2. And if Caleb Williams didn't have the PR train around him, then but that's the buy. But yeah, so I think just personally for me, I think it's Doug Peterson who's next on the chopping block. Yes, it wouldn't be a nice thing if the Bears lose to the Jags. Sorry, not the Jags, the Patriots. That would be as a supporter of a team in the NFC North, I think it'd be quite funny. But it would be quite a frustrating thing, and I can see that. But yeah,
it's one of those awkward ones, isn't it? Because he's bought all the weapons for the new quarterback. He has a solid defense. That defense is solid, especially in the secondary, but they're not performing the way they should be, and they do have a rookie quarterback. So it's like, at what point do you go? Do you take the hit, bring in another head coach who then has a 1-year quarterback, who's arguably meant to be one of the next greatest quarterbacks in the league, as well as a decent offense and a decent defense? Or do you just stick with what you've got and allow Eberflus to gel this team together? Because you've got to remember that not only have you got a rookie quarterback, Swift was brought in this season. I'm right in saying.
Yes.
He brought in this season? Yeah.
Yeah.
DJ Moore was only been there a year before this season. Keenan Allen was brand new this season, and Rome Odunze is a rookie.
Yeah.
So there your offense. The only one that's been there longer than that is Cole Kmet, who's your tight end. And to be fair,
anyone who had him in fantasy last week had 0 receptions, 0 targets, got basically laid a massive goose egg.
Which is strange because he started to develop a really good relationship with Caleb.
We saw that in London. In the London game against Jacksonville, Cole Kmet completely went off.
Yeah. So
I'll say this though, that since they got back from London, the Jags have at least been competitive in the games. They took Green Bay to a 3-point game.
Mm.
I knew the other weekend. Was it
Eagles and
Eagles?
nearly clawed it back, but that was down to the Eagles' incompetence more than anything.
Well,
Well,
yeah,
no,
there's
that
that.
was down to Nick Sirianni's incompetence rather than the Jags being good.
They got blown. That their cheeks got clapped against the Bills earlier this year. Their booty cheeks got clapped again by the Bears. That it wasn't. They're a little bit more competitive, but I just don't. Doug Peterson is what. This is his third year as a head coach. You can, after 3 years, turn around and keep your job because you're just about keeping your team in a game where you lose.
It's
I,
no such
That's
thing.
I
year
think
No,
one, maybe year two.
I think Doug Peterson's gone by the end of the season, no matter what.
yeah, I think
I
so
think
too.
no matter what, he's gone by. He won't be their head coach next year. That's almost a done deal. I think it's just, do they decide to keep him until the end of the year and just allow them to be, try and pick up a high pick, or do they get rid of him now and try and push forward and try and at least look good?
Well, I think sometimes it's going to come with a case of so they've got 2 more weeks until their bye. They got the Vikings and then they got the Lions and then they got a bye week. Now, I said to you when we were playing when they were in London and we had the whole conversation of will they even let him back on the plane? Yes, they did. But this is where they're at, and I will say though that as much as well, it doesn't necessarily give you a leg up. You can't all of a sudden go and start interviewing or talking to people or whatever. You can start your head coach search now. You haven't, there's nothing legally stopping you as an owner going into your office and saying, well, Salah's available now.
Yeah,
Or
some
that
of the bad folder.
or that such and such might be coming available, or Ben Johnson's over there, or Aaron Glenn's over there, or whoever's over there and whoever's over there, who we might. There's nothing stopping you from doing that now. But what sometimes it does do is it gives you that little bit of a boost towards the end of the season and just gives you an idea of things can become a lot less toxic. And in a lot of this, if you're in a bad position, I was a firm believer, as much as I cannot stand this man, that we didn't sack him towards the end of the season because I just didn't think it benefited the Lions. Still went off and lost went like 2-3 or 1-4 to end the season that year. It didn't help us win more, didn't help us do anything, but it just the organisation felt a little bit different. It
Mm.
felt a little bit better going into the end of the season, potentially, because if the Vikings, I was thinking maybe the wheels might be falling off the Vikings, maybe not. They get their asses kicked by the Vikings on Sunday, which is a very much a possibility that might not be a close game. With all due respect, they're at Ford Field the weekend after. I'm gonna go out and say I think we'll win that one. Gonna go out on a limb, and
Are
I
you,
don't think
are you
Are you
making a,
sure?
are you making a
Are you sure?
prediction then that Doug Peterson could get fired before Thanksgiving?
I'm thinking that man will be have a very he will
Down
have
the
a
job centre for
very
Thanksgiving.
a very sad but not very busy Thanksgiving because
It'll depend on how they fought, because realistically they're not expected to win either of those two games. So it's down
no.
to how those games go. I think is the important thing. Is like I say, if they basically get their asses clapped in both of those games, yeah, he's gone. If they remain competitive in those games but lose, he makes it to the end of the season potentially.
Is this
If
the
he gets a
title?
win, he'll probably be there next year.
Open top bus parade during the bye week.
Is this the title of our episode? Butt cheeks clapping or something? Because that's all you two were talking about.
Well,
Um,
have you seen the Saquon Barkley little?
yes,
I'm sure.
gotta
yes,
say,
I've seen it. I've seen it.
with
Yeah.
with the way the episodes are going though each week, each episode could just simply be titled "Is Doug Peterson fired yet?" Does Doug Peterson still have a job? But right, okay, so we've got all of that. There is one
Dog
other
watch.
thing that
Dog watch.
Doug
We're
watch.
gonna have to
I
we're gonna have
like
to
it.
create a little segment every week of Dog watch.
I just you just need a map. on the background here. Goes, hey Sam, yes, I'm still outside the Jacksonville Jaguars facility. Yes, Doug Peterson is still here.
With that in mind, we've got a couple of things I want to talk about before we can start to wrap up the episode, I think. Number one, Karl, you saw something on the NFL UK Facebook group, and I really want to address it.
Yes.
I've tried to ignore it. But
Obviously
Because it's on
anyone.
the NFL UK website, on the Twitter page or something.
no, it's in the Facebook group, so it's like a random person's
even worse
posted it. Yeah, no, exactly. And it's
Yep,
not about Dazn, it's not about snack helmets, and it's not about London tickets.
Nope, it is not. So I had a notification that come through on today that the ELF, the European League of Football, for anyone that's actually interested, they have now got another new team by the name of the Nordic Storm. I'm not sure if that's based in Sweden, in Finland, or in Copenhagen, wherever that is. It's somewhere up in somewhere in Scandinavia. This begs the question. So there was talk of a new league being formed in the United Kingdom here, even though we already have one by the name of the BAFL. Fletch, I want to ask you this question, okay? Why is it that why are we trying to build a new league in this country when the ELF are still out there and we can still produce, we could still have a team here in the United Kingdom to
Nordic Storm is based in Copenhagen.
Oh, so I was right. Actually, pronounce it properly. Come on. You need
So thank you very much, Karl, for totally thinking on the top of your head and asking me this question without prompt. So the UKFL is the one you're going on about, which has been now I've seen this since before COVID. This has been proposed, and I've got the website up here because I don't know. Obviously, I wasn't expecting you to bring this up, but I did have the website up anyway. The UKFL is in development and will play our first season starting in May 2025. And I've got one word for that. And if you've got kids around, shut their ears now. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. That's not happening. If I'm wrong, please, you know what? Come after me if I'm wrong. And if you are the guy who's behind the UKFL and you would like to talk to someone about it, I'll gladly put you on. You can come on the AAW Network. We'll talk through it, and I will give you a piece of. Well, if you've been gracious enough for an interview, probably not. But if you want to talk about it, we'd love to help you promote it, and we'd love to be part of it if there's something that's legit and honest. But I'm calling bullshit on you. Like I said, this has been around since COVID. This has been around since before COVID. Someone's proposed a UK Football League, and I don't think it's happening for many reasons. One, the directors of this league, they change every few months. This guy cannot keep hold of people to stay as directors for longer than 2 minutes. It's ridiculous. Massive red flag. We already have we already have BAFA. We already have, as you said, the ELF. This smacks to me of someone who's probably got quite a bit of money and wants to do their own thing and wants it all their own way. And again, that just isn't the way things fly over here. What I would personally like to see out of this is, yes, I would love to see a UK team in the European League of Football. That'd be brilliant. I've watched a bit of the ELF. I would love for us to go maybe one day on an AAW Network trip to whatever country's hosting the final one year and go and watch it and cover it and everything. That'd be lovely. But we already have a league in the UK that is in desperate, and I mean desperate need of funding all the time. It costs a lot of money to play American football. It costs a lot of money to have all these different teams going on around the country. It costs a lot of money to run it. And they are every year begging for funding. The best way that our league's going to grow and we're going to get better players and all of this is not by going and telling everyone you found stadiums. that 6 people are going to turn up to because you're going to hemorrhage money. The best thing you can do is invest in Baffer, invest in the leagues that already stand there, go find a few teams and say, here's some money. Granted, it's not the greatest business proposal because you're probably not going to get a lot of money through it. But if you're serious and purely about the love of the game, put some of that money put that money where your mouth is, put it into Baffer. Put it into the British leagues because that's how we're going to grow. That's what's already in something's already in place. And I apologize. I will take a stand off my soapbox now, and you both can talk too.
I think you do. You make some very, very good points there. Yeah, Baffa is in desperate need of funding. I don't know how many divisions they play. I think it's like a 2 or 3 divisions. I think it is because the two teams which are associated down at my end. So I think you've got one based in Portsmouth, one based in Southampton. The Solent Thrashers, I believe they're called, and
Yes.
obviously there is the Bournemouth Bobcats as well. So there are teams down here, and especially up north as well. It's very, very. There's a lot of teams up north that play the game, which is absolutely fantastic. But it is about funding. It's all about trying to grow the sport. Maybe the NFL could. The NFL's not going to do anything about this because it's not really something that they would actually care for. But considering the fact they've been playing NFL games over here in the United Kingdom since 2007, you would kind of think that okay, they're trying to grow. We're not just trying to grow the popularity just for NFL purposes. Maybe we could do something to maybe grow the popularity of the sport, but they're actually playing in their said leagues, because I don't see American football being played in France by obviously the ELF. I could be absolutely wrong. We know Germany is a hot hub when it comes to American football. If you go back to the old league, we had the London Monarchs. We had the London Monarchs. You still had the Barcelona Dragons. You had Rain Fire back in the day as well. They've got teams that can actually do this sort of stuff. Okay. But it only happens but grassroots is so important. It's a bit like saying grassroots in soccer terms is very important because you need that starting ability, and it's the same with Baffa. You need that starting ability when it comes to American football, and if there isn't any funding involved, and if there's not much funding involved, they're not going to take the steps that they need to actually not just bring players over here, but actually create brilliant players from the United Kingdom. So then, if they're young enough, the universities, the NCAA will think, oh, hang on, this guy might be up for scholarship. This kid might be good. This kid could go to scholarship. Fletch, you would absolutely love to say, I don't know, a British kid who's playing wide receiver gets a scholarship for the Michigan Wolverines. You would absolutely love that. Sam, I'm not sure who you support in the NCAA, beg your pardon.
Texas.
Texas. Oh, the Longhorns. So say if you had a defensive end that was causing havoc in the British leagues, he gets a scholarship to go to the Texas Longhorns. You would be absolutely delighted. The whole country would be delighted because then we are getting noticed. We are taking our opportunities.
Yeah. I have very specific thoughts on why the NFL don't really want much to do with Baffa, and that's not a conversation for today. All I'm saying is the NFL only want to do. All I will say on it is the NFL only want to do things if it's on their terms. There's a reason they don't give two craps about the UFL, mostly because it's crap and only weirdos like myself watch it, but also because it's being done not on their terms. The ELF, they don't want to talk about it because it's not on their terms. Baffa is not on their terms. There's a reason the NFL came up, wanted to do something over here and set up the NFL Academy instead. So they could have it on their terms. But like I said, that's for another day. But this UKFL, if by any chance one of the people who's listening to this is the guy who set it up and a guy who wants to set it up and do all that sort of stuff, I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. I'd love to sit here over Zoom and call you about it and record this conversation and put it on the network. But at the moment, as far as I care, it's bullshit. It's a load of crap and I just it's not gonna happen. This has been promised for 6 years. You can't keep a director. It's not going to happen. End of story. Anyway,
One thing I'll say, one last thing before we change subject, okay? I want to make a campaign. So if teams in the BAFA can't get funding, this is a plea from myself, from Fletch, from Sam, from Tom, from Ollie, from everyone here on the network. If you have got an American football team that is based around your county or based around near where you live, it was like an hour to 2 hour drive, go and watch them play. If they're a home game, go and pay your own money. Go and watch these teams. Give them support that they actually need, because the more attendance you get, then the money starts coming in, and then you'll get noticed more. So really, the fans now have to start saying, okay, you can't just have these 20, 30 people that turn up at a school sports ground just to watch these games. Go and support your team. Even if you just go out there wearing your NFL, you don't have to support the team.
Yeah.
Go out wearing your Baltimore Ravens jerseys or your Arizona Cardinals jerseys or your Detroit Lions jerseys. Just go out and go out and support. And goes about, it's grassroots at the end of the day. You go out and support grassroots soccer over here in the UK. Go out and support American football team. Oh. Bournemouth Bobcats are about an hour away from me. Solent Thrashers are about 45 minutes away from me. When my little boy gets a little bit more older, I will take him to one of these games. I will get him involved in it because and it's also growing with the youth as well, bringing the young generation into it as well. So please, please, please go and see your local team.
Right. And with that in mind, in the links in the description that we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, I had put a link down there for the BAFA Club Finder. So you can go in, click that link, find if there is a club near you. If you're in North Wales, I'm so sorry, but Chester, Liverpool, or Manchester are your best options. There is none in Wales outside of Cardiff and one in Swansea. We want to get on. Sam, you're on mute.
I didn't realise this. And it's actually, I've just been having a look at them. There's actually one in Darlington. There is a team, it's the Darlington Steam, which I didn't realise.
Oh, so that's where you're going in the summer then on Sundays.
I believe Sean had spoke about them at one point.
Has he?
I'm pretty sure Sean has spoke about them at one point and go and see him. They play the leagues from like April. And do you know what? Do you know the best thing is about stuff like that? I went to go watch the Titans, and between me and my little brother, I remember texting you guys when I went to it because I went in April.
Yeah.
Between me and my brother, I got myself and my brother a ticket. I got a burger, 2 portions of chips, and a drink between us. I think I got a coffee for me or whatever. I think it cost max 15, 20 quid for the whole thing.
Wow.
Because even the burger van outside was cheap. But most of them, I've been to go watch the Merseyside Nighthawks a few times because we've got friends who live a bit closer to the Merseyside. I didn't choose the friends. I don't want friends from near Merseyside. Don't blame me. But we've gone to watch Merseyside Nighthawks, free entry. And they play in like a little sports complex thing where there is actually a stands and whatnot. Not massive stands, but they have stands. It's really, really nice experience. The only thing you need to pay for is if you want to go get a drink from the sports club that you go through. And they're not expensive either. With that in mind, though, I do want us to move on because I think we've got one more bit to get through before I do. And I want to give a shout out to our wonderful, wonderful friends at Fantasy Game Day, the first and only NFL daily fantasy app made by the UK, by UK fans, for UK fans. Now, they are such an incredibly generous bunch of people that they wanted to talk to us about us doing a little bit of something with them, and this is that thing. Before we get going on it, though, if you want to play NFL Daily Fantasy with some of the tips that we're about to give you, and I say we, Sam and Karl are the geniuses here. I'm just tagging along.
That's putting it a bit lightly.
Absolutely not. If you are with these tips, if you feel great, if you want to just go take part in some NFL Daily Fantasy, go to the Fantasy Game Day app. Again, links in bio. Sign up for an account. When you sign up for an account, at the bottom of the page, it'll ask you to put in a promo code. Put in the promo code HRDLE. That is hurdle without the E. HRDLE. You will get, once you deposit and play a game, you will get a free game worth £7.50 to go again. From the guys at Fantasy Game Day, because you told them that we sent you. That is, I mean, can't go wrong with a free game at the end of the day. I don't think you can go wrong with a free game at all. Worth £7.50. With that in mind, if you are gonna go play it this weekend, fantasy. If you don't know how fantasy game day, daily fantasy works, you get given. It's like fantasy football. You get given a lineup, X amount of players, but you also given a budget, bit like fantasy Premier League. But it changes week in, week out. You play a couple of quid to get in, depending on the game, and then you get to potentially win some money if you're really good at picking your fantasy players. With that in mind, you get a budget. With that in mind, there are certain players that are obviously worth more, certain players worth less. Sam, Karl, give us a couple of ideas of some hot players that you are looking at this weekend in fantasy game day, particularly good value or not.
Do you want me to go first or you, Sam?
You go first.
Okay, so two players I've got on my list is one is obviously a very very obvious one, but I'll leave him till second. The one I'm going to say, which will give you very good value, running back for the Buffalo Bills, Ray Davis. So last week he led all running backs in receiving yards with 70. He put up 17 fantasy points, 90 yards and a touchdown on just 14% of snaps and 6 touches. So obviously we know that James Cook takes most of the carries for the Buffalo Bills anyway, but Ray Davis has been explosive and very, very impactful. So he is someone that I will be aiming for. I think on fantasy game day, his point is around
3,400.
3,400. So that's not exactly breaking. So it's not exactly breaking the bank as such. And my other pick, this one is for 5,000 points. It is a wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, George Pickens. 5th in red zone targets with 11, 6th in yards, team pass attempts, which is 2.51. Washington have allowed the 9th most receiving touchdowns. This is 14 this season. I also want to point out Pickens' snap percentage has increased in 4 consecutive games. George Pickens has led all Pittsburgh wide receivers in receiving yards in 5 straight games. He's been the epitome of a wide receiver one for the Steelers. I found it extremely appealing that he also ranks 7th in deep targets with 15, 8th in yards per reception at 2.65. Pickens has been very efficient and has a legitimate chance to take it to the house on any given play. So those are the 2 plays I'll be putting in your daily fantasy league. It's George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers at receiver, and Ray Davis, the running back from the Buffalo Bills. Sam, take it away.
So I've gone with a quarterback who, based upon the fixture that they have, and one that's probably not too expensive, he'd probably be one of the ones that you'd maybe be looking at if you want to bring in some sort of star players like your Alvin Kamara's, your Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson, those sorts, is Sam Darnold. I know that their matchup this week is really good. They've got the Jags, so the likelihood is they're probably going to put up a lot of points. So yeah, he's one at 5,400 that I would be recommending if you're looking at a cheaper quarterback to allow yourself to have more points for the star players. The other one, which I thought was an interesting one, and I think it's based off the conversation that we've had before coming on here, is Rome Odunze. Now, we already know that Rome Odunze has a good relationship so far with Caleb Williams, and the Bears have a very good game to play against the Patriots. So we know that DJ Moore is likely going to be locked up by Gonzalez this week. So you're looking at someone who is basically going to be that other option. And I think Roma Dunze is that player that can potentially be one that you could stick in a flex position who would probably pick up some good points. Fletch, you may need to actually check on the app with this one, but because I've realised in the list that he sent us, Roma Dunze appears twice. So I don't know what his actual value is, but it could either be 3,600 or it could be 4,000. He appears under both, so I'm not too sure.
Right. I want to throw in a tight end there as well, right? Because I've just been looking here. I will double check that for you in a second, but I don't want to forget this because I've got myself right in the perfect spot on my sheet. I'm looking at. I'm going to preface this by saying it's not who I'm looking at. I'm looking at George Kittle at 5,600 this week. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Kelce is worth 5,000 this week. I'm looking at where's he gone? Trey McBride, 4,600. I'm looking at a few players who, like, there's 3 or 4 tight ends who are, where's he gone there? That was it. No, they're wide receivers. Cade Otton for 4,200, right? Since Mike Evans has gone out of this Tampa Bay Bucks team, Cade Otton is unreal in terms of points. Now, I've gone over to this fantasy league I'm in called the ACB, the Argyle Charity Bowl, which is, I think you should all go look that, by the way, up on social media. A fantastic charity best ball fantasy football tournament. I have I don't know anyone a part of it. I'm just saying it out the kindness of my own heart. No, genuinely, it's brilliant. Beforehand, I had Cade Otton in my team. And his best ball, luckily, so when he's had crap weeks, he's not in there. When he has good weeks, he's automatically put in there. Week 1, 2.75. Week 2, minus 0.5. Okay, week 3, you got 18. Week 4, 18. Week 5, 11. Week 6, 12. These are average, decent weeks. Okay, 18's a pretty good week relatively for a tight end, I'd say. When Mike Evans went out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Ravens, that game, 28 points. The week after against the Falcons, 40 points. Last week against the Chiefs, 31 points. Baker Mayfield, we all know what Baker Mayfield gets like when he's frustrated or flustered and doesn't have his targets that he can't throw. He's a fantastic quarterback, but he can turn to a bit of crap. He's clearly found something that he trusts and likes in Cade Otton. And until Mike Evans is back, and we know they're not getting Chris Godwin back, I will always be looking at Chris Godwin as a potential really, really good piece who will get targets from Baker.
Give me Cade on.
Cade
You
Otton,
said
yeah.
Chris Godwin.
Cade Otton,
Sorry.
yeah. Cade Otton is someone I'll always be looking at. As long as Chris Godwin is out, and especially as long as Mike Evans is out as well, he is someone that Baker trusts and will target. So I'm looking at Cade Otton there as well.
Yeah,
4,200, considering he'd be what, like tight end 6, tight end 7 in terms of value.
Mhm.
Could be tight end 1 in terms of points.
Yeah.
Is someone that's someone I've particularly taken a note of. So with that in mind, now you've got our tips and our ideas. There's a couple that you can go have a look at. And again, like I say, if you want to go play Fantasy Game Day, a couple of us may or may not be in the tournament that you are in. We all know some of us are high rollers, some of us are low rollers, and some of them are cowering behind the table because they got no money and can't play anyway. So it's depending on which one you're up against, it depends on which tournament one of us might be in there. And there are some tips for you. With that in mind, gents, just a last little bit. Is there any games that you are specifically excited for this weekend? Last bit.
I'm probably going to say tonight's game. I think the Bengals, although they're 4-5, they do still need to continue winning. They do have a bit of injury. They do have a few injury problems. I think their starting left tackle, I believe, is out for this game. BJ Hill, linebacker, could be out as well, which is not good when you're trying to defend the running game, probably against the best running back in the NFL right now in Derrick Henry.
BJ Hill is available.
He is available. Okay, so that kind of suffers. Even though
seen that he said he was available. I'll double check.
Yeah,
Continue.
even though Baltimore slapped the Broncos last week 41-10, Lamar didn't exactly run a lot in that game. It was mostly used. I think he does have a slight knee injury, but they're just playing it down. And I think this game plan for Cincinnati is going to be try to stop Derrick Henry, predominantly to stop Derrick Henry, because I don't trust Lamar Jackson with his passing. I still think he's done well so far, but when it comes to these crunch games, he can be a bit inconsistent with his passing. On the other side of the fence, though, Joe Burrow is literally holding this offense together with shoestring and some duct tape. Everything he is doing, he's in the MVP conversation, despite the fact the Bengals are not even a 500 team. But what he has been doing has been phenomenal. Threw 5 touchdowns last week against the Raiders. But okay, it is the Raiders, but still, you still got to put touchdowns on the board. And T. Higgins is doubtful. That means I think he's going to be out for this game. I think this has got this. I'm going to put out this right now. This is going to be over 65 points. This game is going to be over 65 points. I could just see it's going to, whichever team gets to 40 wins this game.
Interesting. There are 2 games that feature teams with 6 wins or more this weekend. That is the Steelers versus the Commanders and the Lions versus the Texans. Sam, Steelers versus Commanders. How do you feel about a guy? I said on Monday, I don't trust the Steelers until they play and beat a good team. I don't think they've done that yet. Try in English. That could be set up as quite a good game. What are your thoughts?
This was one of my games of the week, or games to watch, should I say. And that's for that reason, is the fact that we haven't really seen what the Pittsburgh Steelers are like against a good team. But at the same time, Mike Tomlin he's somehow, I don't know how he does it every single year, where his team doesn't look particularly good, and all of a sudden they're 6-2 going into this game, and it's just like, how are they still doing so well? And I think the other side of it is it'd be interesting to see how Jaden Daniels handles someone like a TJ Watt, because that could be a very interesting combination of who wins out. And, obviously he's going to be the guy that they're going to have to watch out for. They know that every single year when he's playing. But that could be an interesting battle to see how they handle Watt and how Jaden Daniels deals with the pressure of a TJ Watt. Because I don't think he's had to deal with too many of that situation. So I think this could be a real test in terms of that element, but I also think it could be a real test for just the Steelers as a whole. So, yeah, I think this could be a really interesting game. I don't think it's going to be majorly high scoring, and I think it'll be relatively tight. But it should be an interesting. It'll be a good game for ones who don't particularly, not just your standard NFL fan who likes to just watch points upon points upon points. These more tricky, more technical games where there's a bit more to it. It's one of those for me. I mean, the 3 games that I targeted was that Bengals Cincy game, this Pittsburgh Steelers Washington, and then obviously the Lions against the Detroit. I think could be an interesting game, just because of the way that it's playing. This is one of those that it could be. Did I say the Lions Houston?
No, you said the Lions against Detroit.
Sorry,
Which I think would be an interesting matchup. I don't know how they'll do it, but
I meant the Lions against Houston, not Detroit. Against Houston.
No, what you meant.
It's late at night. It's 11 o'clock at this
Fine,
point.
we know what you meant. We know what you meant.
So that could be an interesting game. I think, like I say, I think the difference. Houston haven't been as good as we maybe expected them to be. They have looked a bit off it from where we were. Granted, they have not got the wide receivers that they expected to have.
Could potentially have Nico Williams back, but he didn't. But he didn't practice yesterday, so we're going to wait on the injury report for Nico Williams today. If he doesn't practice again, I don't think he plays.
Yeah, and obviously Detroit have got Jameson Williams back this week, which I'm very happy about because I have a lot of him in fantasy. So I'm hoping that he can maybe pick up some points. So yeah, that was another game I looked at. The other one, and this is more just because and Chapman will appreciate this, the Falcons New Orleans game is a game that I'm really looking forward to watching.
Sorry, just a bit of breaking news coming through. ESPN.com just reported Collins' hamstring wasn't spotted at practice on Thursday. So it looks like he will not play against Detroit.
So there you go.
Oh, no.
It's Tank Dell the whole way. But yeah, the Falcons-Saints game is one that I'll be looking at, purely because if anyone remembers their game from last season, the Saints decided to pull out the dickest of moves and get Jamal Williams a touchdown off the back of what was meant to be a kneel, and not one of the many reasons why I don't particularly like the Saints. That is one of them.
So Yeah, that was Saints players as well, though. And I've got to
Oh yeah,
say, I respect the organization of the Saints for not giving the Falcons the satisfaction of firing, of getting Dennis Allen fired the way the Saints did it to Arthur Smith. I think I
yeah.
rate them for that. Because let's
Or
face
that would have
Dennis
been
Allen
it.
was getting sacked this weekend if he weren't anyway. So just don't give the
Yeah.
Falcons that satisfaction.
So yeah. So I mean, for me, I want to see the Falcons absolutely tear the Saints apart. I want to see them absolutely tear them apart. So fingers crossed it happens, but it's as a revenge game for the Falcons in more ways than one.
The Saints team is just complete ass now. Winning,
Well,
winning,
yeah,
winning two straight, and then losing 7 straight. I'm sorry, but no coach keeps their job after that.
Sorry, lads, I just something in my throat.
All right, I'll keep whispering.
Stop. It's gone now. It's gone now. It's fine. It's fine. It's gone now. Same. I agree. With that in mind, I think we should go and enjoy the rest of our evenings. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for spending your Thursday night with me. I appreciate it every single time. Every single time. Have a lovely rest of your evening. If you are listening, don't forget to check the links in our descriptions. Follow us on socials. Join our Discord. Sign up for Fantasy Game Day. And have a great weekend watching football and tune in on Tuesday morning for the review show with Chapman, Olet, and Tom.